and welcome to Greenheart Connects. I'm Marcel and I'll be your host. Thank you for being here today. Greenheart Connects is a monthly online series where we gather and exchange ideas for caring for the earth and for each other. Through facilitated discussions and curated presentations, people from around the world can share inspiring stories, tips, suggestions, and resources on how to improve local communities and the world. Greenheart Connects is brought to you by Greenheart International, a not-for-profit organization facilitating global understanding through cultural exchange programs for Americans and for young people all around the world. We believe that exchange has the power to broaden perspectives and to change lives. Thank you for watching. Greenheart Connects explores 4 themes throughout the year: environmentalism, volunteerism, fair trade, and personal growth. Today, we're talking with one of our Sober Mesa partners, Bunyaad Rugs. Jenni Leister and the team at Bunyaad Rugs are dedicated to fair trade and the difference that fair trade makes in people's lives. Bunyaad loves to talk about the process of rug production and the artisans who craft such beautiful carpets. Each rug is hand knotted, heirloom quality, and importantly, made by fairly paid adults. Working with artisans in Pakistan since 1982, Bunyaad believes in preserving the rich cultural heritage of traditional rug making. The rug artisan group includes over 850 families from over 100 villages. Part of Bunyaad's mission is to provide fair income to Pakistani rug artisans who otherwise would have very few sustainable outlets for their craft and their artistry. There is a fair trade difference, both in the quality of life and the quality of the product. So after the presentation, we will meet back here for a live Q&A. Are you ready? Let's go.
Pakistan, a land of great diversity. Located in Central Asia, with Afghanistan and Iran bordering on the west, China on the north, and India on the east, Pakistan is home to over 170 million people representing numerous ethnic groups and over 20 different languages. Pakistan is a land of great historical and cultural wealth. From this heritage emerges the fabric of Pakistan's hand-knotted Oriental rug tradition. This craft has changed very little over the course of centuries. Rugs are still crafted with the tools and skills passed down through the generations. A quality rug is produced with quality materials, quality dyes, and skilled adult hands, a process that is supported by paying fair wages to the artisans. A commitment to fair wages is at the heart of Bunyaad, a Pakistani job creation program involving over 850 families from over 100 villages. With its name meaning foundation in Urdu, Bunyaad provides a fair living wage to its artisans, supports individual creativity and artistry, and provides economic, social, and educational assistance in the villages where it works. This program revives the ancient art of Oriental rug production by giving these skilled artisans complete artistic creativity over crafting their one-of-a-kind pieces in their homes. A quality rug still takes time that if fairly compensated, produces exquisite results. Today, a variety of rugs are being produced in the villages of Pakistan, from hand-spun wool natural dye rugs to the exquisitely detailed Persians. Although such a variety of carpets are being produced, they are all produced with the same basic techniques. Wool rich in lanolin is shorn primarily from domestically raised Dumba sheep, preserving the shepherding culture throughout Pakistan. This sheep carries an extra fat pack on its tail, adding the extra lanolin needed for good wool. The wool then goes for cleaning and spinning. For some rugs, the wool is cleaned, carded, and spun by machine, creating a fine, even yarn as it passes through the various spinning machines. For some tribal rugs, this process is done by hand, with the spinning being done either by a drop spindle or a spinning wheel. This is a very labor-intensive process, creating a more nubbly yarn. The wool then goes for dyeing. Boiled in large copper pots heated mostly by natural gas, 2 bundles of wool take approximately 1.5 to 3 hours to dye. Wool is primarily dyed with steadfast synthetic dyes, giving artisans a varied palette of colors to work with. In recent years, these artisans have been working more with natural dyes. Consistent dyeing temperatures, high-quality dyes, and natural fixatives like salt are producing durable, fade-proof results. Materials like walnut shells, pomegranate skins, tree barks, orange peels, insect bodies, and plant roots fill the ingredient lists of many natural dye recipes. Natural dyes are quite labor-intensive, as it takes a lot of time to gather and prepare enough of the raw materials to create the desired dyes. Designs are crafted both by skilled artisans as well as jointly with master designers. Most designs are inspired by things found in nature, in architecture, and from each artisan's ethnic heritage. A master designer first sketches a design onto graph paper with pencil, taking anywhere between a few days to a couple of weeks to complete. This artist apprentices for many years before becoming a master designer. Once graphed, the artist then decides on color, carefully painting the design with watercolors, first the large expanses and then the finer details. The design is then converted into a special script called talim. The talim reads like a large counter cross-stitch pattern, with each symbol representing a color with the appropriate number of knots written above it. Meanwhile, in the villages, the warp, the backbone of the rug, is set up. Usually done in the village square or house courtyard, the warp is constructed of wool or cotton thread. One warp usually takes 3 days to complete. Most of these rugs use a knot called a senna knot, or an asymmetrical knot. An expert knotter can knot around 40 knots a minute. A 9x12 Persian carpet at 500 knots per square inch takes 4 to 5 people working side by side 6 hours a day, approximately 1 year, 2 months to complete. A knotter can either work from the talim themselves or have it read to them. The talim sounds something like this: 2 copper, 5 red, 3 yellow, 2 black. Generally, one knotter calls for the entire loom, even when most artisans have the instructions written in front of them. Adults in the family work together on the looms. For example, a husband, wife, and the husband's brothers may work together on one rug. Once one row is completed, a weft thread is shuttled through the warp to secure that row. A comb-like tool called the panja is then used to press down the weft thread and pack the knots to produce quality. These tools are as ancient as the skill itself. The completed row is then trimmed with scissors to keep an even pile. This is important for good washing. On average, most artisans work 5 to 6 hours a day, 5 days a week. Since looms are set up in the artisans' village homes, they can work on the looms during times that fit around their other work and household schedules. As many combine their rug knotting with other seasonal jobs, like planting and harvesting, most artisans work a full-time equivalent of 7 months a year on the loom. This flexibility gives each artisan the most choice in their lives. Once finished, the rug is cut off the loom with large scissors and transported to the city for finishing. The rug first goes for burning. A natural gas flame is brushed over the back of the carpet to burn off excess wool fuzz that has fallen onto the back. This is the only effective way to clean the back of wool fuzz. The carpet does not burn, however, because of the lanolin naturally found in the wool. Artisans begin the washing process by scrubbing the front of the rug with rich bar soap to clean out the dirt that has settled during production, and as a first step toward the final shine. The rug is then scrubbed with plastic bristle brushes, first with soap and water, and then with bleach water. The bleach helps to wash out extra color. This secures the dye so that when the carpet is washed in the home, no color should run out. The rug is then washed again with just soap and water. Scrubbing is very important for the final shine. The washing process for one rug takes a week to 10 days to complete, depending on the type of the rug washed and the weather. The rug is then rinsed with water, and a squeegee-like steel-bladed tool called the pora shuffles water from the rug. This step needs to be done with care, as the pora's blade is quite sharp and could easily cut the nearly completed rug. After washing, the rugs are spread on flat rooftops or hung from the sides of buildings to dry. Under good sunny conditions, it takes 2 to 3 days for a rug to dry. Sunlight is very important during the drying process as it helps to make the colors more brilliant. Once dry, the rug is rolled and taken for shearing. With the rug draped over a steel pipe, the skilled artisan uses a large scissors to shear the pile to the desired length. The size of the pipe ranges from 2 to 10 inches, depending on the type of the rug being sheared. An artisan trains for 3 years before becoming an expert shearer, as it takes a lot of skill to achieve an even pile over the expanse of a rug with only a large scissors. Nothing goes to waste in rug production. Excess wool generated from the rug and from shearing is used for pillow stuffing. The rug then goes for stretching. Wet slightly and nailed to wooden pallets, rugs are blocked to produce the final, even sizing. While being blocked, a natural paste made from the neem tree is applied to the back of the rug, naturally moth-proofing it for life. On the loom, when the knotter shuttles the weft thread through, the loose edge of the thread is pulled toward the front and cut into the row of knots. Now at the finishing process, these white threads are clipped out, leaving the structure of the rug untouched. The rug is then finished by an artisan tying the fringes, the remaining unknotted warp threads. Fringes can be tied in several ways, from a simple knot to exquisite needlework. This protects the carpet by holding the knots. The rug can be threadbare, but if the warp and weft threads are held together, the rug remains strong. Finally, the fringes are brushed straight and trimmed to an even length. By the time the rug reaches this process, it shows the combined effort of nearly 15 people, with the artisan who knotted the rug having spent the most time. With the looms located inside the artisans' homes, it gives increased and equal opportunity for women. Job opportunities are scarce in the villages. Farming and brickmaking are virtually the only jobs. Both are seasonal jobs and mostly given to men. The girls' school in the village of Daranwala has grown to over 800 students, kindergarten through 12th grade. As these children leave the school, they know that their education will lead them to a brighter, stronger future. A future in which they will help create a better world for others. A future in which they can choose to become a teacher, a doctor, a musician, or a rug knotter. Fair trade is preserving the art of Oriental rugs. Supporting fair trade in your purchase decision shows your support for just and fairly paid employment around the world. Through fair trade, people are respected, quality is produced, and an art form is preserved.
Joining us live today from Lidditz, Pennsylvania, we have Yousaf and Jenni from Bunyaad Rugs. Hi, welcome to the episode. Thank you for being here with us today.
Thanks for having us.
Wonderful. Well, I'm so excited to speak with both of you, and I've just been fascinated watching and rewatching the video. But before we get to the live Q&A, I'd like to welcome everyone else here who are joining us today. And if you haven't done so, please share your name and where you are from or where you are joining us from. And if you have specific questions for either Yousaf or Jenni, please write in the comments below, and I'll be sure to ask them throughout our live Q&A. So as we're waiting for the questions to come in, I do have just one simple question to get us started. Just curious, how did you get started in the business?
Well, the Bunyaad program has been in existence since 1960s, almost 50 plus years. It started from day one as a job creation program with only 10 families. My father is one who started this because he himself was a rug knotter, grew up with a family of rug knotters from parents to aunts and uncle, pretty much 99% of the people are rug makers, and surrounding neighbors as well too. But the challenge always has been how to make a rug and sell it for a fair price. And that's where it all started back in the 60s. And then as the program started to show some positive sign, other artisans start requesting too, saying, we make the rugs and we need a fair price too. So starting from there, from 10 families, today there are 850 families. So I grew up around this program. For me, fair trade has been very personal. I saw my father and my uncle working on a 6x9 loom, making rugs when I was 4 years old. So that's my first memory that I have in my mind. So having seen rug being made all the time, have lived among those families, know the challenges they face, know the effort they put into it, know the thought that they put into every rug, because every rug is unique. Every rug is planned out with their daily lives, from how they live in the villages, when they grow their crops, when they have festivals, when they have holidays, and when they do need to do repairs to their homes. So everything pretty much typical to the rest of the world. But that's where fair trade is so important, that people can do those things in their own villages. Majority of the rugs that are made and sold through fair trade Bunyaad program, they're all natural dyes and hand spun wool. That means sourcing your raw materials within your community, within your villages. So when you have the need to be in your community for design inspirations also, it's very important that people are able to afford life within those villages and can source their materials. And so the rug you're looking behind me is all natural dye, hand spun wool. That means using, the raw materials like walnut shell, onion skin, pomegranate skin,
tree bark.
Yeah. So everything grows within the villages. And so it is important that people can afford life in the villages. And that also means they think of developing the life in the village, that education for their kids, improving the village life. So everything happens when there's consistency, when there's a fairness. So fair trade is a very powerful tool that has been there for years. And for me, that's what I grew up with, and that's why I'm involved with fair trade.
Thank you for getting into all of those details. I have a lot of follow-up questions. First of all, how do you get connected to all of the different families that are skilled in knotting or doing all of these different processes in rug making?
So initially, this village, the region where this program started, majority of the villages are rug making villages in the northeast of Pakistan. That's a valley, Kashmir Valley you're talking about. And so rug making has been part of their daily lives. And so initially starting with that, as the program showed success, more and more families started to join in. And in order to join for an artisan, there's a commitment on both sides that artisan has to make, as well as the organization. For the organization, that means the artisan may need a new loom. The artisan may also need get out of other the debts that they may have. So basically get them free off of those challenges, and so they can be more creative, more productive in terms of on a daily basis, and can freely think of their design. So for artisan, then focusing on the quality, the design that they need to create, because every family has a loom in their home. And so they should be free of that, thinking in those creative thoughts. And for artisan to join in, there's a history of the rug making, as well as the the organization itself has to prepare itself. So not only certain number of families can join in, but now at 850 family membership, we're trying to maintain that because it is a large number, and now it contains about over 125 villages in 3 different regions of Pakistan. That means being provinces of Pakistan.
And I think, to be clear, we look for families and look for communities that truly need, who don't have an outlet for their goods. And we often joke that other rug companies will come to us and say, "What are you guys doing? You're a little nuts. Set up workshops, set up places where everyone comes to. Why are you driving great distances to these villages?" And we keep responding to them because that is Bunyaad. That is making certain that the woman who lives in a village that has very little access to other communities and other jobs has a job in her home that is paying a fair and equal wage.
Well, obviously you are keeping many industries alive with this, the sheep wool, colors from various supplies like the walnut, pomegranates. It's not just the rug makers. So it's really, it's
the environment also.
Yes, absolutely. And talking about fair trade, it's not just about paying the living wage. And this is why you're doing this. So there's a couple of different things that I want to touch here. Number one, you mentioned about women. So it sounds like with this opportunity, you are really empowering women, opening up education opportunities, allowing people to stay in their communities. Like in the video, we were shown how people were working 4 to 6 hours a day, but they are working in their community, so then they can still do other things while they're working, which is great. So tell us more about that, because I think for a lot of us here, perhaps the impact, we don't really understand how significant it is to be able to provide those opportunities, especially for women.
That's a very good point. And I think one thing that hits us over this last year is many times when we would give seminars in our then fair trade stores across the US and Canada, we would bring up both the issue of having jobs in the homes that pay a fair wage and also being able to live and work in your home community. And I think COVID over the last year and a half has really helped a lot of North Americans to realize how important it is to have a job in your home that pays a fair and valid wage, and that you can couple with your other household chores. Go ahead.
And the most important achievement Bunyaad ever made from the right at the beginning was setting up a school for girls in a village where there was no school. That school started with only 35 students, all girls, because my aunts could not go to school. My father and uncles did get education because there was school nearby, but my aunts couldn't get education. So that was very personal also to everybody in that village. And now that school has 800 students that are there going there for years. And so we're talking, that school was also chosen as a model school because the whole village is behind it. So what happens is when you initiate something like this, the whole community stands behind it. And so they own it. And so nobody's thinking of migrating from a village. They want to live in those villages. There's a history, there's a joy in seeing what's happening for their community. So they want their children to then decide when they grow up. And often what happens is some children will move on with education. Some will stay in the villages with education, be teachers, be other people. And so it's a wonderful way to build the future community also. Not only the present, it's also shaping the future. And almost 60% of the artisans that we work with are women, and having a loom in their home means it's flexible for everybody. For me, the best example was walking into an artisan home. This woman, she was sitting on the loom. Her husband and her work on a 4x6 loom, a Persian rug. She was sitting with the baby in the lap, who was barely a month old. The child is sleeping and she's working on the loom. And so I said, "Oh, where's your husband?" She said, "He's attending the farm, But she said, oh, while my child sleep, I can do my work. What a flexibility for fair trade provides. And nobody feels like they're just sitting there, you have the work at home, you're creative, you're doing something that you feel you love and you have a history and passion for. So fair trade is more than just 3 meals a day or, putting food on the table.
I'm so glad that you brought that up, because right now, especially here in the US, a lot of companies are going back to the office, some full-time, some doing hybrid. And there's a lot of implications for a lot of people, in addition to, the pandemic is still here. And so I haven't really thought about it this way in terms of rug making, but has the COVID-19 pandemic impacted your business at all, and or the artisans?
And of course, it had an impact, but to begin with, fortunately, rug making takes time. A rug behind us is about 6x9 rug. It will take at least 2 to 3 members of the family working anywhere from 6-7 months to about 10 months out of the year. That means if you have a rug like this on the loom, for the full year, you're set for work. And with the rugs taking that long, everything is working about 1.5 to 2 years in advance. So a lot of our artisans already had the rugs on the loom. And as a matter of fact, we had to sort of slow them down. Like, look, we don't have the income stream that we had before. So you got to slow down. So fortunately, it worked out very nicely for those artisans. But of course, going forward, we do have that challenge where we have inventory. We need to sell it and make sure that every new rug goes on the loom. And now there's material shortages, there's supply chain problems. So we're running into the same issues, even though so much is local, but even within the villages, within the cities, things were not getting to places. Because one of the different thing happened in Pakistan is they did smart lockdowns, which meant that they shut down certain regions. So you couldn't go through or go from those regions. So it worked, and hence why Pakistan had the lowest impact of COVID. But at the same time, it did shut down a lot of industry. So there's definitely effects being seen, and will continue to be seen there for a while.
That's excellent. I'm really glad to hear that. It sounds like the perfect solution in so many different areas of life or factors that are usually considered. And I am just looking at our audience here. There's a lot of people joining us. I want to make sure that I'm saying hi. We've got people joining from Chicago, from Lincoln, Nebraska, from Madrid, Spain, from DC, Richmond, Virginia, and more. So I think everyone is super excited about this. I just also wanted to read off a few comments. I'm an enormous admirer of hand-woven rugs, and I'm awed by the artistry and precision applied to your magnificent creations. Thank you for keeping this timeless craft alive. Thank you for all of your fantastic work to elevating this mission. So a lot of people are just really excited about this, and there are a lot of supporters. Renee is asking, how has the village education program evolved in the last 50 years? Have some of your own students elevated in leadership of this process? Great question.
Yeah, so we've seen many, many examples. For example, to begin with, I know one village where one child went to become a doctor. And this is a village that is literally 3 miles from the border between India and Pakistan. Unfortunately, Pakistan and India always have a very tenacious relationship with each other, which is not very good. But what it meant, the artisans in that village don't get much opportunity. So to have one good example with education going that far, he even wrote letters back to the community saying, remind me where I came from, because I come from a village where people have very least opportunities, but because of fair trade, I've come this far. So there's a lot of people making sure as they're successful in their fields, they are making sure that they're staying in touch with the village. They're trying to do their part. Some, they might work from a village, some they might come back to do small projects. So there's different sectors of even the rug program itself that people are involved. And then most solutions that happen in the villages are by the community. Nobody from outside comes and tells them what to do. And for example, I walked into this village and this community of 20 homes, they figured out that if we build our own, like a biogas plant within the village, we can use that natural biogas for everybody to cook with that on a daily basis, because everybody has cows and water buffaloes. Not only that, they've put like these kitchen gardens, so everybody has a fresh vegetable, and they care about trees and plants and birds and everything. So the thing is, whenever you walk into a village, you will see local community themselves coming up with the solutions, and that's part of the program, that you empower people with solutions that they think they should have. And that means if somebody needs education, often it is the teachers who grew up there are saying, I'm going to stay here and teach the next generation. So those are like many examples like that happening. Even somebody's doctor out there, they'll come back and set up maybe a help to set up a health program. So there's many things happening because of this program over the years.
I thank you. That's very, very wonderful that what you're doing right now, the rug making, is not only providing fair, sustainable wages, but it's actually creating the foundation for the communities to sustain themselves, but also to grow and, getting to a point where they could be really getting to different levels in terms of what they're able to produce. So at some point, it's not just about rug making, but it could be about so much more. But it actually starts with rug making, and
not by not.
Yeah, no.
Not by not. That's right. So let's talk about the rugs themselves, because the video is just fascinating. And did I hear correctly that to make a 9x12 rug, it takes 5 people or over 15 people throughout the process of rug making, and over a year to complete that? Is that correct?
So to start with, yes, it is correct. It's to start with, you need about 300 pounds of wool. That is a 1 year block. About 65 sheep would produce that wool. And so when you need that wool, then if you're spinning by hand, you need to spend easily 6 to 8 months or even longer to spin that wool. But if you choose to do a Persian rug, which tends to have 500 to 800 ounce per square inch, a single person would spend 3 to 4 years making one rug, only making 10 to 12 rugs in their lifetime. And so having a family of rug makers working together makes all the difference. So that's why it's a community effort, it's a family effort, and the size of family determines how big of a rug they're going to make. I've seen very large looms, and then over time, as the families change the shape of their number of family members, the sizes change and also the designs change too. So that natural evolution of their life even shows up in the rugs as well.
So I want to follow up on that. I hear that Bunyaad gives the artist a lot of creative license. You don't ask for pattern in 5 sizes or 5 colors. So I'm curious, how does that change the rugs that you get in your store?
With every shipment, it's like Christmas morning for us. We don't know what we are receiving. What comes is what is coming off the loom. And so it is truly educating the North American public to say, look, these are floor coverings. These are usable, but these are usable pieces of art. And so when you come and you're thinking about what goes with your room, think about picking a piece of art, not just something that's supposed to go with the couch that will last maybe 7, 8 years. This is going to be with you for your life as well as many generations after.
And the one thing I would just quickly add, we live in Lancaster County in Pennsylvania. So it's a home to the Amish. And people know there's quilts, there's pretzels and all those things. So every village has a culture. every village has a style of rugs they make. And that symbolizes their community. And they try to develop things within that style of rugs. So we know when I look at rug like behind me, I know exactly which community it relates to, not just today. I know how far it goes back, 800 years, 1,000 years. I mean, to give you an idea, my family village is a 1,000-year-old village, and it is considered a new village in that part of the world. So people know where they come from. That also means the style of rugs they make, the food they cook, and the type of spices they use. And that all reflects in a rug.
That's part of people's identity, part of their culture. And it's actually a great way to educate people outside of the villages, outside of Pakistan, people around the world, especially us here in North America. This is a way for all of us to learn a little bit something about Pakistan and all of the different villages and how rich the culture is. It seems that looking at rugs this way, it's really a usable piece of art because it's just so unique. And Christmas morning, you never know what you're going to get. Every shipment.
But it's art you can drop your coffee on and your red wine and your dog's pee and poo and whatnot. Soap and water, as you saw from the video, soap and water is all that's needed. And because when people are paid fairly, they can focus on their work. And that means focusing on good quality wool, good quality dye, and all those things that play into creating a quality product, which it's beautiful the first time you see it, but it's also going to be beautiful as you live with it, as you live on it.
So essentially, because these are quality rugs, they last for a long time. Like, Yousaf, you mentioned multiple generations will hold on to the same rug. So you don't have to buy and buy and buy, which is, part of the challenges that we face.
And that's what we love to make certain our North American customers know, that it is a win-win. It's our line that we often talk about is quality you desire, but fairness artisans deserve. And so it is, if this fairness was not there, the wool that was high-end lanolin could not be afforded. The dyes that take a long time to produce, then hence are more steadfast, could not be afforded either. And so it's truly a win-win for all parties involved.
I mean, just to make one color, this rug we had yesterday, a red background, sometimes that wool, that bundle of wool might take more than a month just to dye, because you have to re-dye the wool and let it sit and cure. In a typical manner, artisan would not be able to afford that time frame. And because of fair trade, this is all affordable. And they also have a wider variety of things, and more artisans are working together, collaborating with ideas. We even have seen, I don't think of it would have ever seen artisans from the Northeast, artisan from the Northwest, sitting at the same table, talking about each other's rugs and sharing their thoughts, and also seeing the commonalities, but also saying, okay, well, if they do this, we can maybe see how we can do this. But all those changes are within, rather than somebody walking in saying, you make rugs like this because this is the trend. Well, the good thing about handmade rugs is they are timeless. You have antique rugs going into the 21st century homes all the time. And this has been true over the centuries. Rugs, a good rug would continue to be part of any decor. It's just a personal taste that you might find certain rug not working for you, but that doesn't mean there's not another rug that wouldn't work for you. So the idea is that if you have a timeless quality piece, it's always going to be in style. And that's one of the best property of these rugs. And because of fair trade, these rugs are being passed down. So truly, when you break down the dollars, up front, cost may look bigger. But if you break down the dollar, you'll find that you're paying much less than a machine-made carpet out there.
Well, it travels with you.
And it travels with
and
you.
I think that's the part. You buy one, and it doesn't matter where you live or where you move to, it moves with you.
Right. So fair trade is a win-win. And then we have a relevant question here from one of our audience members. Laura is asking, clearly a fair price is necessary to ensure that this art form can be maintained. So what are the best fair trade markets globally for these rugs in order to provide the extensive number of workers and artisans fair compensation for their work?
There's always a desire for quality in many parts of the world. Of course, we're focusing in North America because in the past, our organization has worked with many countries, starting from Far East to all the way of Europe as well as North America. For us, we've chosen this region because we start working with 10,000 Villages and other organizations. And so you develop product accordingly. See, for each region, each region, there's a style of rugs and sizes even determined because the way the houses are shaped and the furniture is made. So you focused on that rather than trying to develop something for everybody. But within that, when typically there's like 4 or 5 layers of people bringing the product to the market, especially when it comes to rugs. Artisan keeping the least amount of money, the others keeping the bigger share. And even if rightfully so sometimes, but the reality is the artisan gets the least amount. And that's where having it directly bringing to the market, customer getting it for lesser price. So give you an example, Evanston, Illinois, I was there just recently. There's like 10 to 11 rug stores within less than a mile distance. Not a single time we ever have somebody comes and says, your prices are too high or these rugs are not good compared to the others. So fair trade is not about adding premium. Fair trade is only making sure that there's less people in the supply chain and coming directly to the consumer at the end. So the artisan benefits from it and the consumer benefits from it in the end too. But also the quality takes place. So wonderfully, fair trade is not adding any extra dollars to the consumer and giving them a quality product and a quality life to the artist.
We just need to find the organizations who are willing to facilitate all of the work, which is what you guys are doing. We have a follow-up question from Renee. She's asking, what do you feel are the biggest challenges facing the program and artistry? And what can our community of global citizens do to help?
Well, the biggest thing is that there are more artisans always coming and wanting to be part of our group. They see the difference it makes. We've seen homes that initially, when artisan starts working, they have a very basic living condition. But over within the 10 years, you'll see their houses have changed. They're thinking their kids are educated. There's a lot of positive thinking and creative thinking, even going in the future. So there's a desire among many families. Our job is to try to figure out how to keep it balanced. And then making sure that there's a quality taking place all the time, not just to rush up. And so there's that challenges us, of course, because there are always people who show up with a great need. And of course, our program is to reach out to the neediest, making sure that they get what they need, but also making sure that people are, cohesive among even that group, because our goal is to bring people together.
And what can a caring community do? Well, they can take a trip to Lids, Pennsylvania. If not, we work with over about 40 fair trade stores across North America, and we take a collection of our rugs on the road at all times. Yousaf just got back from a long trip through some Midwest and Midwest stores. Our schedule is usually on our website. We're just developing our 2022, and we do have all of our inventory online. It's a little crazy. Every single rug is photographed, but it's photographed in Pakistan, so that portion of the job stays there as well. But every single rug we have is photographed and is online at bunyaad.com.
Wonderful. Thank you for sharing that. Well, you're definitely doing everything right. The very best practices of fair trade and working with, the artisans, suppliers in parts of the country that may not have had access for creative outlets, but also living wage and, building up these communities as a result. So Carol, one of our audience members, is asking, what is on your radar for the future? What are you wishing to do next?
Well, right now, we're definitely making sure that we pass the pandemic. That phase is a challenging one, and we're so far, taking one step at a time. And then the next phase is making sure that we keep offering these artisans this opportunity, because the demand for handmade rugs is always going to be there. But at the same time, it has to fit into, with education, people can afford the changes that are taking place. I don't know what 20 years from now going to be, but I know in the next 5 years, we need to make sure that artisans have access to the market. Our artisans have the information they need to make their next rug, making sure that they get their money on time. And that's one of the biggest commitments we always make. 50% could be offered to an artisan family upfront if they choose to do so. But most choose every 15 days, but they're fully paid before the rug leaves their home. So that financial side is very challenging for us. But at the same time, we're making sure that we are committed to fair trade in every possible way, keeping people, allowing people to live in their own villages, have the education and continue to improve in those villages, and making sure that people understand fair trade is more than just a model that gives one thing to artisan. It's like a complete solution, in my opinion. This is the way life should be conducted on a daily basis, and that to me is what I hope someday happens.
Excellent. Well, I have one last question for you guys. So in the beginning, Yousaf, you mentioned that this is part of the family business. You grew up learning about it. You grew up, with rugs surrounding you, which is beautiful. And so I hear that you have a son. Is that correct?
Yes.
That is true.
11-year-old.
11 years old. Okay. So I'm sure he's super knowledgeable already. He probably knows everything about rugs that other 11-year-olds don't know. So do you think he's going to be going into the business eventually one day?
Well, I'll take that one. I'll tell you, this past year and a half has been very challenging because, to keep a brick and mortar open in the US and then making certain that everything's going and 850 families stay gainfully employed has been really hard and lots of long hours. And so we had a Fair Trade Federation gathering, and we needed to do a video about who we are. And it was the night before it was due. And both Yousaf and I looked at each other and said, I don't have it. I know what we need to do, but I can't pull it together. And in walks our 11-year-old. And we said, okay, Nerez, can you talk about, can you introduce Bunyaad? And we were floored. He has obviously been listening. He did the entire 5-minute video that promoted Bunyaad through the whole Fair Trade network of stores. We were so proud of him, but it was fun to hear how an 11-year-old talks about durability. He made it clear that he's in charge of dog cleanup and that you need to be careful because if you do step on something, you have to get some soap and water. So we're glad that he carries the passion of fair trade and the knowledge of the importance of justice for all and fairness for all. So we're happy to see wherever life will take him.
And the other part I would just want to add, a fair trade, one of the good things about Bunyaad always has been, it's an organization that has always worked as a group rather than one individual. There's always, every decision is taken as a group effort. Like last night, I was up late working with folks in Pakistan. It's always a group of people making a decision just to make sure that whatever step we take, everybody stands behind. And that's the same thing we do here. Of course, there's always a leader, but the essence of the organization is that people work together from all the way from villages to the city and everywhere in North America as well.
We are pleased. Nerez is fully fluent in Urdu. So he's set for that. Plus he can talk about cricket anytime day. So he is happy in the village. He is happiest when we were in Pakistan when he's out in the village.
He actually loves being in the village.
That's wonderful. Well, I mean, it shows that collaboration is really key in order to do something as big as what you guys are doing. So we really appreciate just having you, both of you here today, sharing your story, and really we applaud you for everything that you're doing. Sometimes maybe the journey is not that easy, but you are making a difference in the lives of so many people, not only in Pakistan, but also around the world. Those of us who are fortunate to be able to learn about this, and for people who own this and this usable piece of art, I think it's amazing, and it's all because of both of you and your hard work. So thank you so much.
Well, thank you for highlighting Bunyaad and the artisans. We really appreciate it.
We appreciate the opportunity you've given us, the ability to get the message out.
All right, wonderful. Well, everyone else, stay tuned for our wrap-up segment. Greenheart is committed to connecting people and planet in all that we do. We encourage everyone to support an ethical global marketplace by purchasing only sustainably sourced fair trade goods from socially responsible companies. Thank you for watching. Do you have an idea to share with us about personal development or taking care of the environment or taking care of each other? If you do, please email us at connect@greenheart.org. We would love to hear from you and potentially feature you on an upcoming Greenheart Connects episode or highlight you on our social media channels. Join us on December 16 at a new time. We will be live streaming at 4 p.m. Central Standard Time when we talk with Michael Volpe from Explore Asia over in Thailand. Explore Asia is an organization just like Greenheart, dedicated to helping people discover the life-changing adventure of working and studying abroad. They help guide cultural exchange travelers on a transformative adventure, broadening horizons and leaving a positive impact on the lives of both the participants and the local communities. Explore Asia's programs improve lives around the world by fostering greater empathy, wisdom, and economic opportunity. We think you'll be inspired. You are here because you want to learn about ways to care for our planet and for each other. So thank you for taking the time to be with us today. We hope that you will share greenheartconnects.org with your friends, your families, and your colleagues. Later today, this full episode will be available online. All past episodes are also available for you to view on greenheartconnects.org. And I have to tell you, there's so many wonderful speakers and engaging topics that you can choose from. Be sure to check out the resources page for information that has been shared by our speakers. And finally, please join us on our social media channels so that we can continue the conversation and continue to support one another. We really do want to hear about what you are doing to make the world a better place. So thank you. We hope to see you here again on December 16, 2021 for our next Greenheart Connects. Bye-bye.